Changes.
Fred, is that you singing?
No, it is I, 70s hit rock sensation David Bowie.
Oh, Mr. Bowie. Pardon me. My, you look very festive.
Yep.
So wait a second. You're not Fred?
Nope.
Huh, weird. I could have sworn David Bowie wasn't a piñata with a cheap wig from Party City. Hey, speaking of changes, you look like you need some change in your life. Perhaps a shout out or a new skin. Use code T5G in the item shop and comment your Epic Games username for your chance at a shout out in a future video. Those are some positive changes that you guys could use in your life. Number 10. Season 10 is coming up soon, and they still haven't done anything yet with the mysterious bunkers. Now, this is what the community assumed to be some storyline we have yet to see. Something Epic Games have been very slowly changing over many seasons until they're eventually ready to release the part that explains to us how this all makes sense. Back in the very first few seasons, they added a random small bunker inside what used to be Wailing Woods. It was just off to the side in a small dip and was fully closed up, many attempting to discover some Easter egg that would open the door. But the only methods found to get in involved glitches. After a while, it just became another bit of decoration to the map and people lost interest. Then, with the introduction of the ice biome in Season 7, people soon found another one of these small bunkers underneath a block of ice on a lone island to the southwest. In Season 8, the volcano appeared and the bunker from Wailing Woods had somehow survived, being raised up in a slightly new wooded environment. This was no longer just a decorative feature to the map. All of these little changes definitely meant something was going to happen. But now we're almost at Season 10, and in 7+ seasons, we still have no idea what these bunkers are all about. If you have any ideas or theories, then let us know in the comments, but surely Fortnite will have to do something with these bunkers soon. They're beginning to stretch this one on for a little bit too long now. But what if that was the Epic Games plan all along? Add a couple bunkers here and there and just let the community keep guessing, keep them hooked. I honestly wouldn't put it past them, but number 9. In number 9, we've got to rework an entirely new map. If not introduced high interest points after the war to increase better POIs as far as landing. This is pretty much always in discussion with any Battle Royale community. Unless you're playing something like PUBG, we only get one map to play on. We've been playing that one map for almost 2 years, and yeah, we've seen a lot of map changes since the early green fields of Season 1, like the snow biome, desert biome, and more newer tropical biomes we have in the Northeast. But what changes would you like to see with Season 10? It's about that time where we're gonna be seeing some heavy map changes, or at least we hope so anyway. It's always nice to keep it fresh, even though places like Neo Tilted and the Mega Mall have been a big hit, and there's still a decent amount of the community that are already getting bored of these locations. Now, we know we're about to get into a big war with this ocean monster Godzilla thing fighting a massive mecha robot they're building at the volcano, so I can easily imagine this fight is what causes the map changes for Season 10. It's just a matter of what places get stomped on during the battle. Imagine if we ended up with a post-apocalyptic island after such a brutal war had torn through the land. Number 8, spacing out loot drops to pick up the proper weapon. So this is actually something that's kind of bothered me a little bit since the beginning of the game. Say, for example, you get into a big fight, or just lots of people have died in the same area. You can often assume that certain loot items are overlapping, and it can be very tricky to pick up the specific item that you want your first attempt. Most of the times, I'll just run through and continuously pick up everything in that spot, constantly switching as quickly as possible until I manage to get the item or weapon that I originally want. It can be a massive hassle, especially if you've got other enemies nearby and all you want to do is grab the big pot that's hidden amongst all the dropped weapons so you can heal up. And I think that in all honesty, that this is a really simple fix. I mean, just add a small invisible bubble barrier around the center of every item and weapon, and that prevents them from overlapping each other. Even if they all drop on each other, they'll be forced slightly to the side. Number 7 is to make a competitive game mode in which vault changes do not affect this game mode for events, the World Cup, etc. I think it's fair to say that competitive Fortnite gets a bit of criticism. Just a bit. But something that always comes up in discussion, like clockwork, is the vaulting or unvaulting of weapons and items right before these competitive matches. It's difficult when you spend hours every day for weeks and months on end training with certain playstyles or certain weapon metas, and in one swift vault change, it could derail most most of your training. On the other hand, you could say that this is the nature of Fortnite, constantly changing and evolving at every turn, throwing a wild card into the mix every other week. This randomness and the ability to adapt to it is also part of the skill set a lot of times. However, we think it might be a good idea to introduce a competitive game mode that isn't affected by vault changes. Perhaps they could lock in the weapons and items for competitions depending on the current season. They'll miss out on them later down the season while they're in competitive, but they can always play some normal matches to try out new stuff. At least this way, it'll create a stable environment for tournaments. If they do have a specific item they want to introduce to competitive matches, then put it in normal modes first, see the response, get feedback from the professional side of Fortnite, and then give warning as to when it'll be added. That way, the people playing competitive will have time to train without it affecting competitive until it's ready and accepted. But in number 6, we've got to rework the baller again, please. The bubble-like vehicle that looks as though it's straight out of Jurassic Park, but with a plunger-sucking grappling hook on the front, has been reworked many times. Like for real, this baller was the most loved yet hated vehicle in Fortnite when it was first introduced. The health on it was too high, and mass baller meetups would occur nearly every game, especially in competitive, where it just gives you another layer of shield, essentially. They thought about allowing you to shoot through the baller, but that just made them pointless to use and didn't really showcase what the vehicle was all about. After a while, they brought the baller health back, but lowered it, and for the most part, that seems to be working. However, some parts of the community just aren't happy with how fast you can move in. Don't get me wrong, pretty much everyone loves swinging around like a madman, but at the same time, you can't help but admit that it is a bit too much. Using side grapples with the boost feature can leave you flying across the ground at ridiculous speeds. The ability to escape or hunt down enemies is almost overpowered. To make it a little bit more balanced, it might be best to simply remove the boost mechanic or just slow the vehicle down overall. And in number 5, we've got the heavy sniper wall grab. This is another one of those little tricks that everyone loves to do in Fortnite, but you always think about how dirty that play was or how cheap it is, simply because it's almost too easy. The heavy sniper isn't just the perfect sniper for long-range battles, but even in close quarters, it can be extremely useful. Say you've got an enemy turtle up in their little 1x1, or you can one-tap destroy and steal a wall with the heavy sniper. The thing is, in a normal wall destruction case, it'll be blown out through multiple shots, which allows the builder to have some wiggle room in their response time. But attempting to counter a heavy sniper is near on impossible, and the moment you hear the shot, it's too late, and the only way you can really counter it is if you're already spamming build on that wall or already know that they have a heavy and you're preparing for it. It's an ability I love, but no, it's a bit too strong of an attack. And in this case, they could possibly add a tiny building delay on the specific grid section, in which you just destroyed an enemy build with your heavy, which would give the enemy those normal few milliseconds to respond without feeling like they just got assassinated by a stampeding rhino. Number 4, Vault the Burst SMG. This one I'm fairly sure will happen down the line eventually, but we're hoping for the start of Season 10, and that's the removal of the Burst SMG. There's only one real reason, and it's because it's generally just a waste of a good loot spot. Throughout nearly every shooting game, you can see it throughout all of Fortnite, there's always one or maybe two guns that people just leave behind 99% of the time. They're either too weak or the recoil's unbearable, and Burst SMG is one of these guns. Fortnite seemed determined to try out different variations of burst weapons, but the SMG is probably the weakest, yet it can be a bit annoying after you've found 5 of them already, yet still no shields. Items or guns you actually want. They could possibly lower the spawn rate on it, but the burst SMG will still be mostly left behind. Our advice, just chuck it in the vault for Season 10. Although, to be fair, we also see a lot of things get vaulted during Season Change, so what other items or weapons do you think won't be around in Season 10? And what new items might we be getting? Number 3, in Fortnite's current competitive scene, fighting it out in the arena, there's been a lot of chatter about these new items Epic Games just chuck into competitive, no matter if it hasn't been publicly tested or it's been tested over and over again. At the moment, people really want to see the removal of newer items like storm flips and airstrikes. Only from arena, obviously they'd be kept in normal modes, but at the moment, these 2 items in particular cause pure chaos. There's also some minor changes recommended for other items. The stink bombs are definitely a lot of pro players' favorite metas at the moment, but when you're getting killed in toxic fart clouds non-stop, it's just over the top. With this, you could add a minor activation delay from when it impacts, or simply just decrease the stack size so you can find them, just so it doesn't become another airstrike bombardment. Finally, the redeploy 10 stacks some consider a lot, giving players the ability to get out of sticky situations too frequently. Again, you could simply lower this down to 4, which would actually make you think about when you use them, and I think that these changes could really do some good in the game. Number 2, increase mats and shield. So this is something I've also thought since the beginning, and it's come up many a time in the community, especially when we were being messed around with Siphon, being able to get more material for your harvesting or make the harvesting tools stronger so you get mats and destroy structures quicker, excluding player builds, that is. Building is what draws so many players into this game, yet it can be aggravating when you have to spend a solid 5 to 10 minutes getting that material. Just give me the mats and let me build my stupid castles and mile-high llamas. You gave us this building mechanic, now let us use it to our full advantage. When I see the ends of game competitions and you see those builds covering the landscape from 50 players who were the final circles, I love those moments. And being able to have increased material will just give us more of that insane building gameplay mid-game and even early game. Also, can we get an increase on shield potion spawns? I swear I rarely ever find shields in this game at the moment. But in number 1, we've got to work better to combat hackers and cheaters. This is something any game will continuously have to work on. Hackers will always find a new way through the system, and cheaters will always find new glitches. Compared to the early days of Fortnite, we barely have any. However, there's always those few that get through, and there seems to be a flood during any Fortnite competition. I'm assuming by now they do have a dedicated team for stopping hackers, and they're always working with some of the best companies to combat them. They just need to make sure they stay on top of it and pay special extra attention to actual qualifiers. They definitely need a better system in place, especially since the competitive scene continues to grow. Speaking of growth, if you'd like to see our video of how the map is growing and how the map is changing, click the annotation on screen to watch our video on the top 5 Fortnite locations removed in Season 10. Click the video to find out more.